I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for almost 5 years now. We got engaged last summer, planning a life together, the usual dreams, kids, a house, a dog. I genuinely thought I knew her inside out. She was always a little bitchy, sarcastic, quick to lie if she thought she could get away with it, but I overlooked it because she was hot and charming and I loved her. Things started to feel off about 2 months ago. Small signs, really. She was suddenly more secretive about her phone, always locking it even during dinner. She'd get calls and hide her screen quickly. I'd catch her deleting messages sometimes and she'd just shrug it off with a quick, "It's just work stuff, Mike. Don't be so paranoid." But I wasn't paranoid. It was just weird. I'd ask her about her day and she'd give short, clipped answers, not the usual chatter she used to have. She started leaving her phone around less. And I remember catching her in a lie once when she said she was working late, but then I saw her sneaking out of the house at midnight. Then came the biggest red flag, her behavior at our summer cabin. We've had this place up north for years, a small getaway, peaceful and secluded. We'd go every summer, just us. But this year she changed. She was more distant, more tense. I'd catch her sneaking off into the woods during the day or getting calls and whispering into the phone like she was hiding something. The last straw was when I saw her phone light up with a message from someone named Jake. That's her best friend's name, but I knew what that meant. She'd been texting him late at night, laughing at his jokes, flirting maybe, I don't know. It was obvious she'd been hiding something from me. One night I decided to follow her. I was tired of the lies. She went out into the woods again and I quietly trailed behind, hiding behind trees, trying to catch her in the act. I saw her meet someone, it was Jake. They were hugging, her hands on his chest, like they were more than just friends. They kissed briefly and I swear I felt my stomach drop. I couldn't believe my own eyes. My wife, the woman I trusted, the woman I was supposed to marry in just a few days, was cheating on me with my best friend, just days before our wedding. That moment I felt like my world shattered into pieces. I stood there, frozen, watching them like some sick, twisted movie. I wanted to yell, to confront her right there, but part of me just couldn't believe it. I was stunned. When they finally parted, she looked around nervously, then hurried back to the cabin. I just stood there, my mind racing, trying to process what I'd seen. I knew I had to face her. I had to know if it was real or just my imagination. So I went back and waited until she came inside. When she finally did, I was already waiting in the living room, my fists clenched, my stomach twisted into knots. "Lisa," I said softly at first, voice trembling. She looked surprised, maybe even annoyed that I was awake at this hour. "Who was Jake meeting in the woods tonight?" She rolled her eyes, scoffing. "Oh, really? You're spying now? God, you're so paranoid, it's just—" "Jake, Mike, we're just friends, get over yourself." Her tone was bitchy, dismissive, like she thought I was overreacting, but I'd seen enough. I told her I knew about the kissing, the flirting, everything. Her face twisted into a sneer and she started lying, of course. "There's nothing going on. You're just insecure as usual. Jake and I are just friends. You're jealous, that's all. You're imagining things." But I knew better. I saw the truth in her eyes. She was lying, desperately trying to keep her secret. That night my mind was racing, anger, betrayal, a deep ache in my chest. I couldn't sleep after that. I kept replaying everything I saw, trying to convince myself it wasn't real. But I knew. I knew she was cheating and it crushed me. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, like my heart was bleeding. How could she do this to me, to us? I'd trusted her with everything. I'd given her my heart and she was out there, sneaking around with my own best friend. It felt like my whole world was crumbling. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind was spinning, replaying the scene from last night over and over. I couldn't believe she'd actually done it, cheated on me with Jake, my best friend. It felt like a punch to the stomach every time I thought about it. I've known Lisa for years. She's always been bitchy, sarcastic, quick to lie, but I never thought she'd actually betray me like this, especially right before our wedding. I spent the entire day trying to piece everything together. I kept asking myself why, how, and what I could have done differently. I wanted to confront her again, but I knew I needed a plan. I couldn't just burst into her face and accuse her blindly. I had to get real evidence, something concrete that proved what I'd seen. I started searching her phone, her emails, her social media, anything that could give me an answer. It was dirty, I know, but at that point I didn't care about morals. I just needed the truth. I found more messages from Jake. They were mostly in secret, hidden behind deleted conversations and cryptic code. But I could see enough to know that they'd been sleeping together. Probably for weeks. There was talk about missing her, needing her, waiting for the right moment. My stomach churned. How could they be so reckless? I kept asking myself if she ever cared about me at all. It felt like I was living in a nightmare, like my whole life was a lie. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, trying to decide what to do. I knew I couldn't just let this go. I had to confront her, but how? I wanted her to admit everything, to see her squirm, to face the consequences of her actions. I also didn't want to just scream at her. I wanted to be smart about it. I decided I'd wait until she came home that evening, then lay everything out on the table. I was going to give her a chance to come clean before I made any moves. When she finally walked in, she was acting even more bitchy than usual. Her makeup was perfect, her attitude even more dismissive. She saw me sitting on the couch, eyes cold, and immediately got defensive. "What do you want, Mike? Can't I have some peace for once?" She snapped, flopping down on the sofa, crossing her arms. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool, but inside I was boiling. I told her I knew everything about Jake, the secret meetings, the kisses. Her face twisted into a smirk, like she was amused by my pain. "Oh, please," she said, rolling her eyes. "You're overreacting. You always do. Jake and I are just friends. You're imagining things. You're insecure and you're jealous because I'm better than you." That was her go-to line. Always the same, always full of shit. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "I saw you last night. I watched you kiss Jake. Don't lie to me now." She laughed, a cold, dismissive laugh. "Whatever, Mike, you're just jealous because I don't want to be stuck in some boring, predictable life with you. Maybe I should go out with Jake more often. He's more fun." Her words cut through me like a knife. I felt sick. How could she be so callous, so bitchy? The woman I loved, the woman I was supposed to marry, was out there cheating, lying, and now she's acting like I'm the problem. I couldn't take it anymore. I told her I was done. I told her I couldn't marry someone who would do this to me, who would lie so easily. She rolled her eyes again, looked me up and down with a contemptuous sneer, and said, "Whatever, Mike, you're so insecure. You always think everyone's cheating, and look what it's gotten you. Nothing. You're pathetic." That's when I realized how little she cared about my feelings. She was just playing her game, doing whatever she wanted, and I was supposed to accept it. That night, I felt like I was living in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The person I trusted most in the world had betrayed me in the worst way possible. I thought about calling her out, shouting at her, ending it right then and there, but I knew I needed to be smarter. I had to figure out my next move carefully. Still, the pain was overwhelming. It's one thing to suspect your wife is cheating, but to see it, to know she's been lying to my face and betraying me with my best friend, it's like my soul was being torn apart. I didn't know how I was going to handle the days ahead, especially with the wedding just around the corner. After that confrontation, I didn't sleep a wink. My mind kept replaying everything, her sneering face, the kisses, the lies. I felt numb but furious at the same time. I'd trusted her, loved her, and now I was questioning everything about our relationship. I had to decide what to do next, but first, I needed proof she couldn't deny. I couldn't just take her word for it, especially after she'd lied so easily. Over the next couple of days, I started digging deeper. I knew she'd be back at the cabin for the weekend, and I decided I'd lay a trap. I got hold of a voice recorder, a cheap one, nothing fancy, and I hid it in the cabin. My plan was simple. I'd wait for her to come back and catch her in the act. I knew she'd be sneaky, so I had to be prepared. I also decided to install some hidden cameras around the cabin, just in case she tried to sneak out or meet someone else. I did. Want to leave anything to chance. That weekend, my stomach was in knots. I kept looking at my phone, waiting for her to arrive. When she finally did, she was sunshine and attitude, acting like nothing had happened. She sashayed into the house, flipping her hair and acting all bitchy like she owned the place. I played it cool, but inside I was simmering. I kept the recorder running while she made herself a drink, and I kept the cameras rolling. I was determined to get everything on tape, every lie, every flirtation, every sneaky move. I stayed in the other room pretending to be busy, but really I was just listening and watching. And then it happened. She met someone again, not Jake this time, but her sister's ex Dale. They were whispering, laughing too close, and I could hear her saying stuff like, "I can't believe I got away with it again, and I don't care what Mike thinks. He's so clueless." I was furious. She thought she could lie and cheat and I wouldn't find out. Not on my watch. I could feel the rage building inside me. I wanted to burst in and scream at her, but I knew I had to stay calm. Instead, I kept recording, capturing every word, every dirty secret. It was the most painful thing I'd ever had to do, watching her cheat, knowing I was helpless but recording everything for proof. It was like my heart was breaking all over again. Suddenly, she turned her head. I saw her glance at the hidden camera in the corner. My blood ran cold. I realized she must have sensed I was watching or maybe saw the camera. Her face twisted into a sneer like she was warning me. She grabbed her phone, whispered into it, then slipped out the back door. I followed her from a distance, heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. She went to the woods again where she'd met Jake earlier, and I hid behind a tree, watching her meet him once more. Those two were clearly in their own world, completely disconnected from what I was feeling. It was then I knew I had enough. I had enough evidence, enough proof that she'd been lying and cheating every step of the way. I felt sick, but also strangely relieved. I finally caught her red-handed. That night I sat in my car outside the cabin, staring at the footage I'd recorded. Her lies, her sneaking around, her betrayal, all of it. I knew I couldn't stay with her anymore. Not after this. The next day I called my lawyer and started figuring out what to do. I didn't want to confront her again without a plan. I knew I'd have to do something drastic, probably file for divorce, maybe even go to the police if I found any evidence of something more serious. I couldn't let her get away with it, especially not right before our wedding when everything was supposed to be perfect. The emotional weight was crushing. I felt betrayed, humiliated, angry, but also a strange sense of clarity. I realized I'd wasted so much time trying to convince myself she loved me, that she was faithful. All along, she'd been playing me, lying, cheating. And my best friend, he's no better. How could I have been so blind? How could I have trusted these two? Now I was left to pick up the pieces of what I thought was a life built on trust. I didn't know what's next. But I knew one thing for sure. The woman I thought I married is gone, replaced by someone I don't even recognize. The days that followed were a blur of planning and trying to keep myself together. I couldn't believe I was actually going through with this. Divorcing Lisa, my wife, the woman I'd planned my life with, just because she had to cheat with my best friend. It felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's story unfold. But at the same time, deep down, I knew this was the only way to get out of the mess she dragged me into. I couldn't stay in a relationship built on lies and betrayal. I spent countless hours going over the recordings I'd made, the texts I'd uncovered, and the evidence I'd gathered. I knew I had to be careful. If I was going to do this, I had to do it right. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in these kinds of situations, and we mapped out a plan. I also started thinking about how I wanted to handle the confrontation, whether I'd do it face to face or just send her a message. Honestly, I was leaning toward a direct approach, but I also wanted her to feel the full weight of her betrayal. Meanwhile, Lisa was acting more bitchy and dismissive than ever. She was trying to brush everything off, acting like I was overreacting, calling me paranoid. One day she even said, "You're making a mountain out of a molehill, Mike. You're just insecure. Maybe you should get some help." I wanted to scream at her, tell her how much she'd hurt me, but I kept my cool. I knew she was just trying to dismiss what I knew, to gaslight me into doubting myself. The more she lied, the more convinced I was that I had to end this once and for all. That evening, I decided to lay everything out. I sent her a simple message, no emotion, just the facts. I told her I had all the proof, that I knew about her cheating, her lies, her betrayal. I told her I was done, that the wedding was off, and that I wanted her out of my life. I didn't expect her to respond kindly, but I knew I had to be firm. I also made sure to record her reaction, just in case I needed it later. Her response was almost textbook. She called me a liar, accused me of stalking her, and tried to spin it all into some kind of misunderstanding. "You're crazy, Mike," she typed. "You're just jealous because I don't want to marry a man who's so insecure and paranoid. I didn't do anything wrong. You're making all this up." I could hear her tone in my head, bitchy, dismissive, full of contempt. That's when I realized she'd been living in a lie so long she didn't even see the damage she'd caused. But I wasn't going to fall for her bullshit anymore. I told her she needed to leave the house immediately, that I had arranged everything with my lawyer, and that I was going to take care of myself from now on. I signed the divorce papers that night, feeling a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. I'd lost the woman I loved, the woman I was supposed to marry, but at least I was finally free from her lies. The hardest part was the emotional aftermath. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest every day since I found out, like I'd lost a part of myself, trust, love, even my own judgment. I'd always believed in honesty and loyalty, and now I was left picking up the shattered pieces of my life. I didn't cry often, but when I did, it was because I felt so betrayed, so stupid for trusting her. Looking back, I realize I should have seen the signs earlier. The secretive calls, the lies about her whereabouts, the sneaking around at the cabin, those were all red flags I ignored because I loved her. But now I see clearly. Love isn't enough if it's built on betrayal. I learned that the hard way. And honestly, I wouldn't wish this kind of heartbreak on anyone. It's a lesson I'll carry with me forever. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to fix. I hope anyone reading this takes it seriously. Pay attention to the signs, because once you lose your trust, everything else crumbles. The months that followed were the toughest I've ever faced. The divorce was finalized, and I moved out of the house that had once been my dream home. I felt like I'd been through a war, emotionally drained, broken, but somehow also clearer than I'd ever been. Still, the scars lingered. Every time I saw a photo of Lisa or Jake, I felt a surge of anger and disappointment. It was like they had taken my heart, shredded it, and tossed it aside without a second thought. I tried to pick up the pieces of my life, but it wasn't easy. Everywhere I went, I kept seeing reminders of her. The little things, her perfume on my pillow, her favorite mug in the sink, the empty space where she used to sit. It was a constant punch to the gut. I couldn't help feeling stupid, naive, for trusting her so blindly. How could I have missed all the signs? How did I let myself believe she loved me? The betrayal had shattered my confidence, made me question everything about myself. But there was a strange silver lining. I realized I was stronger than I thought. After the initial shock and despair, I started focusing on myself. I got back into working out, reconnected with some old friends, and even started therapy. It helped to talk through everything, to process the rage and sadness I'd bottled up. I also made a firm decision. I would never let anyone treat me like that again. I deserved better. I was worth more than the lies and betrayal I'd been subjected to. One thing I learned from this whole ordeal is that revenge isn't always the answer. I didn't want to mess with Lisa or Jake anymore. I just wanted to move on, to find peace. I didn't need to destroy them. I just needed to rebuild myself. So I cut out all contact, blocked their numbers, and focused on healing. Every day got a little easier, and I could finally breathe without feeling like I was suffocating from all the pain. Looking back, I think the worst part was feeling so blindsided. I thought I knew her, I thought I knew us. Turns out I knew nothing. She was a liar, a manipulator, someone so deeply selfish that she could cheat and lie without a second thought. And Jake, he was no better. My supposed best friend, the guy I'd trusted for years, was a part of this whole mess. That realization stung more than anything. Trust is everything, and once it's gone, it's almost impossible to get back. Now I'm just trying to move forward piece by piece. I won't lie. Some days are still hell, and I get those flashes of anger or sadness. But I remind myself that I'm better than this. I deserve someone who respects me, loves me, and doesn't cheat behind my back. I've learned that the hard way. My advice to anyone reading this: pay close attention to those red flags. If someone is sneaking around, hiding their phone, lying about where they are, don't ignore it. Because once trust is broken, the damage is almost irreversible. And no matter how much you love someone, you can't fix a broken heart that's been shattered by betrayal. You have to rebuild from the ground up, and sometimes that means letting go of everything you thought was real. Now, here I am, months after everything fell apart. Honestly, I still think about Lisa and Jake sometimes, but it's less about pain and more about realization. I've come to accept that some betrayals run too deep, that trust once broken can't always be repaired. It's a lesson I wish I didn't have to learn the hard way, but it's made me stronger, more cautious, but also more aware of what I deserve. I've started dating again, though slowly. I do jump into anything serious because I need to rebuild my confidence and trust in myself first. What this whole ordeal taught me is that I shouldn't ignore my instincts or the red flags. If something feels off, it probably is. And if someone is lying or sneaking around, I've learned it's better to face it early than to wait until it's too late. Looking back, I realize I was in denial for a long time. I wanted to believe in Lisa and us so badly that I ignored all the signs. That's the worst trap anyone can fall into, thinking love is enough to make everything okay. But love isn't supposed to hurt this much. It's supposed to make you better, not destroy you from the inside out. The biggest thing I've learned from all of this is that you have to value yourself enough to walk away from the bullshit. No one is worth sacrificing your peace or your sense of worth. If someone cheats, lies, or manipulates, they don't deserve your loyalty or your love. You have to draw the line, stand up for yourself, and know when enough is enough. Honestly, I don't regret discovering the truth. It was painful as hell, but it freed me. I no longer live in the shadow of her lies. I've started to rebuild my life piece by piece. And though it hurts sometimes, I know I'll be okay. Because in the end, I chose myself. I chose honesty and integrity, and I refuse to let anyone take that away from me again. So, for anyone reading this who's going through something similar, trust your gut. Don't ignore the red flags and don't make excuses for someone's bad behavior. It might hurt now, but in the long run, it's better to face the truth and move forward. Because life is too short to be haunted by betrayal. And someday, I hope you find your peace too.